just for you. We talk film, TV, both old and new. We discover new things, our taste get broader. So here's the show's host in no particular order. He's a little rough, he's a little caustic. Everybody knows the most, the one and only toxic. From way up top, you'll find the love at the start. He forgot to press like when he used StreamYard. Stupenzolicious gonna judge you on your sense of cool by asking you what's your favorite Mexican food. He shouldn't tell secrets, but you know that he can. It's the Hollywood goss from an inside man. When Valencia sometimes drinks cappuccino, everybody thinks he looks like Quentin Tarantino. So come on in and join the Nielsen ratings. It's a show that you've all been anticipating.
Police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
He's a good kid. Jamie, I want you to listen carefully.
What's going on?
I'm going to start off with asking you.
Do you know a girl called Katie Lent? Yeah? Describe each other as friends then.
Is she dead then?
Why would you ask her?
So do you think it would be okay if we speak about it? I haven't done anything. You're a good dad, a great dad.
He hasn't been found guilty, he's been accused. What have you done?
Bang by a girl, you sausage.
You're not getting it.
What am I not getting?
Dad, you're not reading what they're doing. It's all to action by the manosphere. 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way.
We've done nothing wrong, have we? Hey!
Look at me now!
It's crazy what your brain tells you to do when you're a kid.
We're going to be talking about this show in depth tonight. Not only that, I'm going to be doing a Chew Fat special on adolescence as well with a couple of special guests. But before we get into that, I just want to say hi to the chat. Hello to Flav, Aaron, Blue Collar Losers popping in. Is he on the bus? I don't know. Gary Banjo Sandwich is here. Wormy Spoons is here. Good to see you. Gary went to acting school with Stephen Graham. That's interesting to know. First up, from the Northern Wastes. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Hello, you beautiful bastards. And I'm guessing our special guests will be people who are part of the show. Am I right?
I can't say it this time, but it's going to be a special to that, talking about the show and getting. We're going to talk about it tonight, but we're going to talk about it even more on that. Also here, the Inside Man.
Evening all.
How's it going?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Certainly looking forward to talking about this.
Yeah, fantastic. We also have fresh from the swamps of Dagmar, Lord of Toxicity.
Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody.
I forgot about that. Am I the only person going on camera today? I think it looked quite possibly. Maybe we can lure Stupenzo on camera from his cave.
I'm sick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we know that. We've known that for ages.
Sick in the head.
Welcome to my panel. Great to see you all here. We got quite a bit of stuff to get through, both new and old movies and TV shows tonight. So quite a few things in the lineup. But we are going to kick off with the show that we showed trailer for, Adolescence, which is now available on Netflix. It's 4 1-hour episodes. They kind of vary in time a little bit. Some of them are an hour and 5 minutes. Others are like 45, 50 minutes. But it's 4 episodes. It's starring Stephen Graham, Ashley Waters, Erin Doherty, and Owen Cooper in perhaps what has to be, I would argue, one of the most stunning debut acting child performances of film and television history. I would probably argue there's a strong case for that. And there has been a huge increase in crime among young people in the UK recently. We've had a couple of stabbings in schools this year between children. We've had a couple of crimes committed off school property, but between children of the same school, where at least one party has ended up being murdered. The case of the girl in Croydon, which was extremely tragic. I think her name was Etienne, if I remember rightly. And then, that was over nothing. I mean, it was absolutely over nothing. And then we also had somebody getting stabbed in a school a couple of months ago. So this production, the timing of it, the landing of it is very, very timely, because crime among young people, particularly in the UK, is on the increase. We don't have easy access to weapons over here. But if we did have easy access to weapons over here, I guarantee you there would have been several school shootings by now, probably at least a dozen. And this show really does tackle that subject head on. What it does differently, and I think to its credit, is we have had a lot of crime dramas, including true stories like the murder of Stephen Lawrence and stuff like that, where the focus is very much on the victim and the family around the victim and so on. What they've done in this drama is flip that on its head, and they have focused on the person the perpetrator of the crime, and then the impact that has on those around him, including his family, his father, played by Stephen Graham, the officers who arrest him, the lawyer who's put in charge of his case, the social worker or psychologist who's assigned to assess him, who is played by Erin Doherty in episode 3, and I'm going to talk more about her later. And the impact that this has on the child. There's a lot of stuff that this show covers that we don't normally see in dramas, and that was exactly what I loved about it. Some people will say it's boring. Some people will say it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. I don't necessarily think either of those things are true. I'll try to avoid getting into too many spoilers in terms of where the show takes you, but it is 4 parts. And what is really incredible about it is it's all done. Each episode is done in a single take. It is the same team behind Boiling Point. It's Phil Barantini, who, of course, Inside Man, you'll know from working with him on Band of Brothers. I have to say, he does a first-class job of not only directing and staging each episode, but directing the actors as well, because the performances in this are Oscar standard, in my opinion. Oscar standard. There isn't a weak actor in this show. Not even the kids with one line. Everybody is really convincing. This is a very, very realistic depiction of the kind of thing going on in the UK today. The police procedural stuff was really accurate. And the first episode starts with the arrest at the house, and the camera at one point is in the police car. Then it goes up, does an overview of the street, because the cameraman just walks onto a platform which is raised up. They bring him down. He passes the camera off to another cameraman who follows the policeman raiding, going inside the house. They arrest the suspect. The camera is passed inside the police van to another cameraman. So this one long continual shot continues all the way back into the police station and then to several rooms. And they used about 7 camera operators, but it's the same camera the whole time. So it's an incredible technical achievement. Christine Tremarco came around and had dinner at my flat once. So there you go. There's a story. She was with Stephen Walters, who's another actor who was also in Band of Brothers, funnily enough. And they were visiting me in London. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, this will not be for everybody because it's digging into the minutiae surrounding a case like this, which some people won't find interesting. And what I've noticed is that everybody that works in the industry, like myself, actors, production people, all think this show is amazing. People that are not in the industry, who just like watching television dramas, are very divided over it. But all the people that I know that are in the industry absolutely love it. So I'll hold off on giving my rating for the moment. But I have seen all 4 episodes. It goes without saying, I highly recommend it. I think it's a benchmark production, which will stand on its legs for a very, very, very long time to come. So I'd like to hear an American opinion on it first. Stupenzo, what did you think?
I liked it. It is a little anticlimactic. You think it's going to be kind of more of like a, did the kid do it or not? There's never really a question about that. And it is, you know, it's a little, what I didn't like about it and also appreciated about it, but one of the reasons I didn't like watching it, like being in jail sucks and going to public school sucks. And those first 2 episodes really make you feel like you're being arrested again. You know, it sucked. It's just not fun at all. It's like filmed in like a real jail, I'm guessing, a real school too in the second episode. And it's just, you know, and I don't know. I found myself rewinding a lot just because of like the crazy, there's a lot of CGI transitions to make it seem like these are big one long takes, and you can spot them occasionally.
No, they are one long takes.
There's like one part in part 2 where like in episode 2 where like the car, one of the kids like runs out the window. The camera goes through a glass window, and then all of a sudden it's a drone camera, and it's like there's a lot of drone cameras in here that are being utilized. Very like
I can tell you how they did that drone camera. So they passed you can see, I've seen the behind the scenes footage. Pass the camera through the window. It's not onto a drone. It's onto another camera operator who's on a platform out of shot, who takes the thing, and then the platform moves with them and then goes down to the ground, and then they step off it and hand it to another camera operator.
Well, there's like a lot of like how the hell they do that kind of stuff. And then
I get that.
Also,
it is a real one take. I can promise you, it's a real one take.
There's also like a lot of scenes where like you know, an actor has to drive to another location, and like he's really driving to an actual place while doing all the lines, and then they get out of the car and they're at the spot, and then the camera goes from like being mounted on the hood of the car to like going in the store to coming out to going in the back seat of the car and driving back with them. Like all that stuff was really cool. As far as some things I didn't like, it's definitely got this whole anti-knife crime. Knives are bad. Also, Andrew Tate is bad. The manosphere is bad. You know, all that stuff is going on in the show a lot, which, you know, I don't mind. But it's basically like these kids, you know, who are these kids looking up to on the internet type thing. But yeah, it's like you said, it's a lot of minutia, a lot of little, tiny details in the performances. And overall, I thought it was, it was a little long for what it was. But still, like I found myself definitely, enjoying the whole thing for being like,
you weren't bored at any point, really.
No, it was good.
All right, good. We'll hold off on the ratings until the end. Inside Man, very curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm never that enamored with anything that Netflix comes up with. I'm always very dubious with Netflix and with their nonsense that they're notorious for, sticking on there. And if I'm honest with you, I kind of got a little bit of kind of Brit grit fatigue with all these British gritty bits and pieces, these so-called kitchen sinkers, or like kitchen stinkers. However, I thought this
So
was
glad you put that however in. Keep going.
I got to be honest with you. I thought this was the most extraordinary piece of television I think I've seen in decades. It absolutely blew me away. I've never seen anything like it. I've genuinely
Yeah.
never seen anything really that held me as much as this has held me. And it was really difficult for me not to cry during particularly the first episode. I mean, I just thought, oh my God, I'm really kind of losing it a little bit here. Mainly, because the father-son relationship and everything, and you kind of, you put yourself in the headspace of the father. But that boy, wow! I mean, oh my God, that kid can act. That kid can genuinely act, and I was
He got to
utterly
sit on the sofa of the One Show with Robert De Niro the other day. Did you see that?
no.
Yeah.
No,
I'll
no.
see if I can get the clip. But yeah, carry on.
But he, he and everybody else just blew me away. I've never seen anything like it, and it really affected me. I mean, really, really deeply affected me. And that's exactly what any of these things are supposed to do. They're supposed to affect you. They're supposed to affect you in some way or another, whether it
Yeah.
affects you in a way of sort of tugging at your heartstrings, squeezing and twisting your heart and tearing your guts out, or whether it's gonna make you laugh until you're sick. But this, genuinely, I can't praise it highly enough. I think it really is a genuine, extraordinary piece of television, and you're right to use the word benchmark as well. I think it
Yeah.
really is an absolute benchmark program. This is
I
going to be
mean, there's
something. I genuinely, sorry to interrupt, but I really
no,
think
go
that
on.
this is going to be one of those shows by which all others that come after this will be measured.
Yeah,
Any British
agree.
show, any Brit Grit show that comes out now is going to be measured by this.
Yeah.
Now I love Boiling Point the movie. I wasn't particularly enamored with the TV show. I thought it strayed a little bit
Yeah,
too much.
I agree. It was okay. It was true to the characters, but I didn't think
Yeah,
the narrative was as
yeah.
gripping as it could have been, and it was definitely a mistake not to bring Jason Flemyng's character back.
I
That-
think so. But the movie is a wonderful piece of work. It really is. Again, an
Yeah,
extraordinary film to watch. With
yeah,
incredibly talented actors and filmmakers. Again, with this, it's a very, very high benchmark. And it is going to be one by which so many others, so many Brit Grit shows are going to be measured now, I think.
yeah. I think any actor that's in this who we haven't seen in anything before, predominantly there's 2 or 3 kids. Fatima Bojang, who's on the screen now, she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's only in the 1 episode, but she was amazing. So she's
Yeah.
gonna, if she hasn't already, she's gonna get an agent out of this, and we'll be seeing more of her for sure. Possibly one of Stephen Graham's best ever performances, and we've already got quite a few to choose from where that's concerned.
I've got to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen him do anything quite like this. I mean, he is an amazing actor. Really, really, one of the best of his generation, without any doubt. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Wemmy Spoons is asking what's going on with my appearance. I have a fresh haircut, which is true. I had it cut 2 weeks ago, and I'm looking smart. Yeah, I was out for lunch today, and I haven't changed since I come back, so I've got a shirt on. So there you go. And I caught the sun a bit because it was sunny today. It was nice. Got to sit outside for a change. Yeah, I mean, Owen Cooper, man, you know, I really hope this kid gets like all the right guidance, and you know, we don't hear about him being in rehab when he's like 16 or something. I hope he gets all the right guidance and mentors, and because he's so good already. But at the same time, I hope he stays grounded. It doesn't go to his head, and you know. But yeah, I expect us to see a lot more of this kid.
I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of this kid. He was amazing. I mean, he was the, you know, the lodestone of the entire thing. But what a performance that kid gave! I just couldn't praise him highly enough. This has got awards slapped all over it. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna clean up. Is it the TV BAFTAs? And I guess it would be up for it could be up for the Emmys because it's Netflix as well. Yeah, if it doesn't clean sweep both, that would be a travesty. Yeah, Ashley Walters was great in this as well. He had a really, really lovely kind of natural, organic performance. I've seen him play coppers before. I've seen him play gangsters and fathers, but I really liked him. I really rated him in this film.
Oh my god, yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, it was. I have to say the first episode was my favorite. Just the simple complexities of, you know, it's all one shot. We start where the arrest happens. We go with the camera in the car. We're back at the police station. We go into about 5 different rooms in the police station. I mean, he's up there. I have to say, I think people are going to criticize. I think Stephen Graham is better than Tom Hardy, and I find him more interesting.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that.
I find Graham more interesting to watch than Hardy and Cumberbatch. I like James McAvoy; he's quite versatile. But yeah, so
there's certain things that Stephen Graham can do that the others just can't. They just can't. I mean, but that final scene in the first episode. It's all one scene. That final moment with the pair of them. I mean, it absolutely floored me. I just, you know, I got up, I went out into the kitchen, and I was like, oh my god, I just need to compose myself a little bit here. Yeah,
you really did feel like you were seeing the scenes for real of every case like this that's happened in the UK. You know, and the murder of that girl in Croydon is the one that comes to mind, and I can imagine the parents of the boy who stabbed her going through this, you know. And why did he do it over a fucking teddy bear and a rucksack? You know what I mean?
But I didn't feel like I was watching any acting going on. I didn't feel like I was watching acting.
It's incredible. It's really incredible. I wonder how many takes. They did of this.
Oh, can you imagine the rehearsals? I mean, you know yourself what it's like being on a set. You know,
so I can tell you, having listened to behind the scenes interviews and stuff, they created miniature sets for each episode, and they had figures like a war game set up, like I did with when I was doing the paratrooper stuff. I created all that in miniature and put a camera where the camera was going to go and things. And that's how he worked out with the DOP. And they had miniature figures for the crew, so they could work out where the crew was going to be, where the camera handoffs were going to be. So again, for anyone thinking there are cheats in this, there really aren't. There's no cheats in this.
But that's actually very much an old school blocking style. That's how blocking used to work. You know, you know, you go back, you know, you see the kind of plastic hard kind of sets that have been built, the miniature sets and everything with little toy soldiers and figures, you know, and this is exactly how blocking would be done, you know, to work out every single angle and where somebody has to hide and come in from. But the coordination with this, the whole structure of this production, I can't imagine how difficult this must have been for everybody involved on the ground here, including all of the actors.
They spent weeks rehearsing it. So, you know, but yeah, absolutely. Northern.
I do like the show. I do really like the show. If you can get past the whole, I don't know if they're trying to say that fucking people listen to Andrew Tate or the Manosphere will become serial killers. I don't know if they're trying to get that point across because it did feel very clumsy, but you get past that, it is a fucking solid TV show with some really great acting, and Steve Graham is always good. I mean, when he's not in a Venom movie, he is a great actor. He can play something very realistic, and his characters do feel very realistic. And yet the kid is really good. He is brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. I really wanted to believe he was innocent. Then I really wanted to believe he was innocent. Then we get this.
You're not sure, are you? You're not sure up until a certain moment. You're kind of they play that really well.
I know he's got the innocence, but then you see him in that third episode where he's getting this independent evaluator, assessor, or something, therapist, and he does come across really creepy and terrifying and sympathetic again on the dam, and has Ashley Walters bloody changed in the last 20 years? I mean, it didn't feel too long he was in that rap group, So Solid Crew, and he still looks the bloody same.
Mate, really good moisturizer and cooking. That's and healthy food is what that's about.
Yeah. Really Givens, I do agree. Yes, Elmore Leonard. Yes,
I met him on the street twice. We met on Oxford Street, and we met again in Angel when I was doing a show, which I invited him to come and see, which he'd actually heard about, but sadly he did never come down. But really nice guy. Definitely had time to stop and talk to me each time I met him, and he did remember me as well from the first occasion.
He's a working class one as well. I mean, a lot of these actors do come across working class, and most of them have been on like Shane Meadows' stuff, and so they do genuinely give off something genuine as well in their performances. Like Inside Man said, it never feels like actors acting. I mean, I even like the fourth episode where the family are trying to at least try and get by with this whole horrific incident. It's
that episode, even though people might argue it's not as thrilling as the rest, I actually found that episode really gripping, because there's that whole thing where the father goes, "We're going to take the day back. We're going to take the day back," and when he says that line, this family has been in that situation dozens of times before this, and they've had to come up with that as a defense system of, we're going to take the day back. This is probably the 50th time that's happened. So that you're seeing a routine with this family that they've had to go through. Why this boy, I think he's been in prison for almost a year and a half, or
and he's actually going. And people are really having to go say, but it's so anticlimactic. No, this is supposed to be real life, all right? This isn't some grand free act structure. This is something that does happen in real life, And get past the Andrew Tate stuff and just focus on the fact that this kid has definitely got some mental problems. He's got he's not really had the best time at school, and he's got a lot of problems in his head that's really does need looking into. And I do agree with Whammy Spoons. Like, I don't think Andrew Tate is wrong on a lot of stuff, but he did scam a lot of people to get his money. So even though I agree with some of the things,
we're not going to defend Andrew Tate on this channel, because I think he's a penile of the highest order. So let's not go there.
It's funny. I'm glad that Northern did actually mention Shane Meadows, because my missus actually said, this looks like it's, it could be Shane Meadows.
Yeah, it does feel like Shane Meadows doing.
It really does.
The one-shot thing.
Yeah, but it just. Oh my God, I can't get over how good this was. I really can't. I'm blown away, really blown away by it.
Well, ratings out of 10. I'll come in with mine. It's a 10 from me. 10 out of 10.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's got its problems still, but it's like everything. But it's still a very solid thing, and is one of the best things this year so far. After all the crap I've been watching this year.
13 people in the chat. I want some ratings. What would you give Adolescence out of 10 if you've seen it? Put a rating in the chat now. Inside Man, what would you give it?
10. Easy 10. Easy 10. I loved it so much.
Toxic has managed to cram in the entire show while we've been talking about it on fast forward times 20. What did you think? What did you think of it, Tox?
It's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. It's amazing.
Excellent. That's another 10. Fantastic. Good stuff. Incidentally, Shane Meadows and I started directing at the same time. We were both living in Nottingham at the same time. We were very aware of each other. I wouldn't say I hung out with him as a mate, but I had many a conversation with him. We were borrowing each other's kit and cameras and things like this. And he even when he became, when I was at the London premiere of 24/7, the film he did with Bob Hoskins, and I asked the first question at the Q&A, and he recognised me straight away, and he was like, "Lance, you came down to see it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I did." So that was really nice. I haven't seen him in many a moon now, though. Rachel has just started watching it. So, yeah, okay. Well, look, if you haven't seen Adolescence, we highly recommend it. I would be curious to hear what people think of it. Raylan Givens, I haven't seen you in the chat before. People should be more like Elmer Leonard. Welcome to the channel. So, let's move on from Adolescence to another new Netflix release. One is dividing some people, and well, some less so perhaps. But they spent, and this is the thing that does get me a little bit. They spent 320 million on this. That, I mean, I didn't realize swimming pools cost that much money. But Electric State dropped just the other night. It's got an all-star cast, some of whom are voicing digital characters. You have Chris Pratt, who plays this superb kind of cool character called Chris Pratt in the movie. Billy Bobby Brown is in it. Anthony Mackie does some voices in it. This is called Electric State. It's a really reminded me of Fallout. It's a dystopian version of the future where robots kind of became advanced in the 1980s. Every household had one for various different tasks. In the end, robots became sentient. Quelle surprise. There was a robot war, and the humans, supported by this scientist who had a kind of advanced robot called, which came from this organization called Center. They basically developed a new weapon for the humans, and quelle surprise, the humans won the war. The robots were outlawed, and they were kind of put on reservations, a bit like the Indians after the Indian Wars, and told that was where they could live in peace. In the meantime, Billy Bobby Brown's brother, who was killed in a car accident, we find out he's actually being kept alive, and his brainwave patterns, due to some techno bullshit Star Trek scientific bollocks, means that he's kind of keeping all of these different internet things connected that are keeping the humans on top of the power base, as it were. And Billy Bobby Brown's character, whose name I can't even remember, decides to try and rescue him. The robots get involved. War breaks out. Chaos ensues. Lots of big fights. Stanley Tucci and Giancarlo Esposito are in it, and so on. Now, people are quite divided about this. I will say this before I hear the views of my panelists. I did love the aesthetic of this movie. I liked the look of the world. I liked all the kind of, you saw all the different, I liked all the different types of robots with this kind of retro 80s look of what they might have been if the future had gone a different way. And I kind of liked, the landscape and stuff like that. Where I think the film fell down was the human character narrative was really wishy-washy. And when there was a punch-up between an AI sort of robot connected to a human versus General Peanut, I didn't really realize how much I didn't need to see that until I saw it. So it weren't great, but it had some really interesting ideas. I didn't hate it as much as everybody else. I felt like it was a commendable failure, but then I have to also balance that with this cost 320 million, and I could make Paratrooper which would be a European Band of Brothers show, 4 times over for that amount of money. 4 times over. So they must have been paying these lead actors obscene funds. I reckon at least 100 million of that budget went on casting, and then probably about another 120 million of it went on post-production VFX. So and then, you know, the other 100 million, look up and see how many producers there were. Well, that's where that went. But yeah, it's a strange one. Stupenzo, give me your verdict.
I was very disappointed with this movie because this movie got the World War Z treatment. I'm a very big fan of Simon Stalinag, and he did, you know, a bunch of crazy concept art that got really viral in the early 2010s. And then he made a book called The Electric State. And yeah, all the good things of this movie are, you know, borrowing visually from this book. But yeah, it's just, again, you're just, it's loosely based on this book. Now, Simon Stalinag has another property that was based off of one of his works. It's called Under the Loop, and that is way more in tone, in you know, the proper tone of this, like, you know, dystopian kind of technological wasteland with like blending, you know, farmlands and rural areas with this crazy like dead tech. All this stuff is very prominent, but yeah, the movie itself is just kind of underwhelming, which is insane because I think it's also just like a testament to like audiences in general are just not wowed anymore by big special effects or big loud fight scenes.
Yeah,
big
they're
action scenes. We're just it's very generic and boring, and you know, I there's like, I think there's some good, again, they're trying to do the Marvel humor too with this one. The Russo brothers, you know, they're trying to do the Guardians of the Galaxy tonally. And yeah, like Toxic says, it's like Fallout meets Ready Player One kind of. And it's funny because if you check out the book,
that's a good description.
The book is it's like an illustrated graphic novel kind of thing. You know, there'll just be this crazy digital painting, and then there'll be like a little paragraph that gives you like a little bit of exposition on what's going on in this world. And it leaves a lot open to the reader to kind of fill in the gaps and use his imagination as to what this world is all about. Whereas, yeah, this one is just a very, it's just bloated and kind of generic. And like I said, it's not really, there's anything wrong with the movie per se. Like if this movie came out 10, 15 years ago, I think we would have all been very amazed by it. But I think we're just not into this stuff anymore as audiences have we're tapped out on this kind of just really loud, like popcorn style films. And especially since, you know, I don't know what, like if this costs so much money, these bloated budgets, like why is this not getting a theatrical run?
Yeah, that to me seemed just nonsensical. I wanted to show some of the art that you just mentioned. This is the original book.
Yeah, Simon Stalinag has some of the best dinosaur illustrations I've ever seen. That's how I got into him, looking up like cool dinosaur illustrations. But yeah, like all this stuff is excellent, and none of this is really conveyed in the way that the movie tries to do it. You know, it's got to have this, like, there's like a quietness to it, an eerie kind of desolation, a silence to it all. It's very like peaceful looking, but strange and eerie and almost creepy. This artwork is just really great. And a lot of people are, you know, like Simon Stalinag is kind of a hot commodity. They're trying to get him, you know, I would recommend watching Under the Loop instead. That was a weird overlong show, but it definitely gets that mysterious tone kind of down. This one, like you said, it's got Ready Player One vibes, and you know, I mean, nothing wrong with Chris Pratt or Millie Bobby Brown or all the voice actors. I forget who did the voice of the robots. There's some big ones in there.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Enzo, one question, Enzo. Do you think it should have been a bit more like The Road, but with like robots?
Well, not as graphic or violent, but yeah, like that kind of
just more like dark and slow pace.
Like I said, like there's this like when you look at the artwork, there's this like peaceful kind of serenity to it all. That's very awesome. Like this stuff is great. you've got a lot of like, it's like a road trip through like this barren wasteland, and you've got like, telephone poles and farmlands, and then just giant like, inoperable, robots from eons past, and there's just great images, and you can't, it just shows that when you just have, you could have had different people try to adapt this book and it could have been a lot better, I think,
Were you not a fan of General Peanut?
No, I mean, he was fine, and all that stuff is, there's like, this movie wasn't terrible, it wasn't, if I hadn't read the book either, I probably would have liked it a lot more. But yeah, it's just like I said, they just kind of World War Z'd it, Like,
am I right in thinking Drinker interviewed these brothers on his channel? Is that the same guys?
No way.
No, it's the guys who did Batwoman, wasn't it?
Maybe the Russo brothers. I don't know how the Russo brothers, like, what their deal is, but they just kind of showed up, started making Marvel movies. I don't know what they did before Avengers movies.
Arrested Development. I know they did that.
Oh,
let me
check.
I think I'm getting them mixed up, but he did interview these two guys who directed.
No, but also
together.
It's just a curse that like they're just kind of showcasing that like the Russo brothers, if they're not making a Marvel movie, it's gonna be a flop. I don't know what their deal is. Because they have these. They have the expertise in working with like very big budget, very big special effects heavy projects, and yet when it isn't an Avengers movie, it bombs. So I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to be around much longer doing these kind of huge tentpole, big budget movies much longer.
Good. Well, they produced Extraction and Extraction 2. I thought those. Well, certainly Extraction was a movie I really liked, but not directed by them. They wrote it. The brothers wrote it. They produced it. Sam Hargrave directed the first one.
Yeah, they also did The Grey Man, which was another okay one, but nothing that great.
Yeah, that was
that weird. What was the Black Panther guy? He had like some New York bridge terrorist movie.
21 Bridges.
Yeah.
That looked like it was going to be good, but wasn't. It had this great premise that they really didn't follow through with. Probably because shutting down 21 bridges in New York is not very practical. Okay. Who else? So Tox, we haven't heard from you yet. Have you seen Electric State? Give us your thoughts.
Did, and I'm glad I did. I didn't want to. I saw the Drinkers review, and I saw some reviews online, usual stuff, and I was like, well, I ain't watching it, but I don't have control of the TV at the girlfriend's house. She does, so she popped it on for her and the kiddo Saturday afternoon, and perfect time. Great Saturday afternoon watch. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought everybody was doing a really good job. I think it's a good movie. I can't find any fault in it. I don't know why they didn't release it in theaters, unless like maybe Netflix, maybe they're not allowed to do that or something. They don't do movies. It can only go on their streaming service. Maybe I'm not 100% sure how that works. But
I'm sure they could if they wanted to.
They have released in theaters before. Yeah.
Have they? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a great addition to the sludge that's out that I've been seeing in the theaters the last couple months. I would have liked to have watched it. I like the 90s nostalgia thing. I don't know why everybody's, and I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but I don't know why everybody's hung up on how much money a movie costs, or whether or not they do a it's set in a 90s, 70s, 80s, 60s nostalgia, whatever. It seems to be, if a movie's set in a different time thing, like the Fantastic Four, everyone's like, oh, they're doing the 60s shtick. And if the movie costs $12 billion or $12 million or $100, it's not my money. It's not like it's a Doge thing, and I need to know where my taxes went for the movie. So I don't know why everyone gets hung up. I mean, if you get Giancarlo Esposito, Chris Pratt, Anthony, what's his name? Yeah, Falcon, Millie Bobby Brown, and all these people. Anthony Mackie, thank you. It's going to cost a shit ton of money, especially with a shit ton of thing. Everyone, wanked themselves off over, Blair Witch Project because it cost $12 or something to make. Well, it looks like it cost $12 to make. Sometimes you want to take the kid and have the kiddo watch a bunch of robots smacking each other around. I mean,
I think to be fair, this is a good kids movie. I think kids will be.
Kiddo liked it, and he doesn't like nothing. He only likes looking at his iPad. So if we can put something on that he likes, it's pretty good. So,
like I said, there were things I liked about it. I just felt that the main narrative and the human characters were pretty bland. But I think, you know, I guess where the money is concerned, I think for 320 million. We could have got a better movie. I didn't agree.
We had
with
3 good movies for that same price.
Yeah.
You know? It's also just like when you see, you know, this movie costing $320 million, and then it's also Godzilla -1 is a big part of that. Like everyone's obsessed about how cheap that movie was made. I think it just really shows like how bloated the movies are, especially like when you watch, you know, the end credit. Watch the end credits for the Electric State. It's. Like I said, there's so many people involved, and you're like,
the end credits are about 6 minutes long. But
they do the thing with like the Avengers where like they start listing the special effects operators, and it's just like a whole frame of names, you know, like
but you guys do realize that that's a us problem, not a normie doesn't care about that. They're not looking at they're you know, Susie Homemaker and Joe Travel Stamp, you know, that works at the post office that are watching something with their kiddo on the weekend.
Right.
They're not going to look at the credits and go, oh, look, Dolores, they spent a gaffer made, you know, like 12 times what I make at work. You know, I mean, they're not going to care about that.
But like the idea is, you know, Avatar was like a big deal because it's the first movie to cost $300 million. Now it's like normal for movies to cost $300 million. And
yeah, but Avatar's trash though.
But if it's going to cost $300 million, like, you know, there's got to be like there's definitely some money laundering and some bloat and just like unnecessary. Like you need like a Doge department for movies for Hollywood right now. That's just like, where is this money actually going? You know,
it's funny you say that. I mean, it's funny you said it because off stream the other evening, Lance and I were talking about this, and I said precisely that to Lance. You know, there's definitely some dodgy dealing going on here.
Oh, I have no doubt.
You know,
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, because those gaffers aren't making more money than usual. It's not like everyone's getting a pay raise on the. They're definitely like you know, shysting the little guy.
Yeah, it's the standard Hollywood accounting, isn't it? You know, I mean, they try to. I don't know whether when they start to say that this costs 320 million or this costs 450 million and this costs 630 million, whether it's just a bunch of showboating to their competitors. See, you know, look how much money we're spending, or is it something that they're doing to their shareholders and saying, look, see, we're spending your money really, really wisely,
probably a bit of both,
or unwisely. You
Russo
know,
brothers got this they got the rights to this in 2017, so they've had quite a while to tinker around with it. So there's probably been the usual suspects of rewrites, reshoots, this and that and the other thing. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm just saying, like, you know, my girlfriend's 8-year-old kid doesn't care. He wants to see robots smack each other around.
Right.
And
you're right.
I don't think this movie's trying, and I think it's just barely clever enough and watchable enough so that somebody like me doesn't want to, you know, jump off the roof while it's on, which is most of the cartoons he watches I do. But this was just enjoyable enough, and I think that's kind of the point. I mean, let's be honest, besides, you know, acting like she can throw objects around with her mind and crying really hard, Millie Bobby Brown hasn't really shown a whole lot of range. I hate to say, I'm not trying to. I mean, I think she does have some talent somewhere, and I think when she breaks free from Netflix and does some other projects, I think that she could be pretty successful. But I mean, this is kind of just the cut and paste standard, you know, trope of that, and sometimes that's okay for a Saturday afternoon thing. So I liked it. Final thought.
Making you know okay movies for $320 million is a system that's designed to fail.
Well, again, like I said, I it's not my money. I don't care what they do. I mean, you know.
No, but I think that the point is, and I'll make this before we score this, and also give Northern and a chance to speak. The point is, if you keep making films like this with that kind of budget, it's not sustainable. And what's
especially when they're just released on Netflix only, you know, it's the system will collapse, and this is why various people, including myself and Drinker and stuff, have said
make good movies for reasonable budgets. You can make a great film for 20 million. Also, let's create a new casting system. Let's get more actors out there. We don't have to have the same 50 actors in everything. We're seeing Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown in loads of shit. There's loads of other actors out there as well. Let's give other people.
The problem is that as soon as you have those actors attached, that's when the investment comes in.
It does.
We don't want to.
People are engaging less and less now because of the talent. Though. It's not the same anymore.
There was what's known as an essential commodity. They're one of the it is. It's the essential commodity. So whenever it's pitched, it's like this. It's so who's your essential commodities that you have for this movie? And of course, they reel off a bunch of names.
I don't want to draw. I don't want to draw this out too long because I know we're going to need to move on. But I will say this. I mean, two things. One, worked at a theater in the late 90s, and the three same actors were popping up in everything. Vince Vaughn, Joaquin Phoenix, and
Sam Jackson.
You're just everywhere. Like, they were the usual suspects were popping up. So that's always kind of been a thing, but that's neither here nor there. The other issue is just basically that as far as, how much money they spend on, I'm sure there is bloat and I'm sure there is this kind of stuff, but just because they could have made 3 or 4 other movies like Companion, which I liked, which was a lot less budgety and had lesser known stars and stuff like that. That's like saying, I'm not going to like The Rookie with Nathan Fillion because, Firefly only got 1 season. So that's why, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't exactly track. I'm not going to go, this show's in season 7, but he only did 1 season with Firefly, which was 20 times better. That doesn't, 2 things can be true at the same time.
Yeah. I think you make a really
Northern, very, very briefly from you, Northern. Did you like this or not?
No.
It's serviceable. It's a serviceable little action movie with a lot of stuff happening and very bland characters, played by some very decent actors. And that's mostly just about it. I didn't really hate it, but I didn't really think it was anything groundbreaking. And I don't think it really did need to really spend that much money on this. I think some of the gags could have been cut down a little bit to cut down the runtime and keep the pacing going. And there was a few structural problems, especially with the brother being revealed to be dead. He should have been revealed a bit earlier before his little robot avatar came in and, just to sort of like give you more context to already straight away with Millie Bobby Brown's character being depressed. But Millie Bobby Brown is just okay in it, and Chris Pratt's basically discount Star-Lord. And I did buy the relationship with him and the machines, and that was the only relationships I actually cared about in this movie.
I felt like the human character narrative would have been better served by a 6-part miniseries, so they could have felt more like real people. They felt all the human characters were very cartoonish, and I felt like I'd seen them all before. It was very well-worn tropes. What I liked about the film was the visuals and some of the acting, but mostly the visual aesthetic, which of course I would defer the credit to that
the visuals are brilliant. I like the 90s aesthetic a little bit. It's a bit different because we've always been seeing the 80s aesthetic a lot, and I don't think Chris Pratt should have been a bit more gruffer and more brooding instead of just wisecracking Star-Lord. It kind of would have been a nice little contrast.
Yeah, he's basically Star-Lord in it. He is Star-Lord in this. We have a very important poll going on in the chat at the moment. Is the Inside Man actually General Peanut in Electric State? The options are yes, no, he's just a peanut, or no, he's a raisin. So far, 44% think Inside Man is actually a raisin.
There you go.
So there you go.
You could be right.
Inside every Inside Man, there's a raisin just bursting to come out. I give this like a probably about a 5 out of 10 overall for me. I'm going to rewatch it again because one of the things I did like about it was I loved when there was the big epic scenes you had all these different robots doing shit in the background. And that really reminded me of some of the early sort of George Lucas stuff, you know, when like if you look at a shot of Jabba's palace, there's some really interesting things going on with some of the extras and just little bits and pieces in the background. There's always
Jabba.
fun stuff to see. Anyway, so yeah, 5 out of 10 from me. Stupenzo, what would you give General Peanut?
I'm about 6 out of 10.
Oh, Stupenzo's muted.
Oh, 6
Okay,
out of 10 is what I said.
6 out of 10 from Stupenzo, 6 out of 10 from Northern. Tox, you're the big fan.
I mean, I wouldn't say big fan. I just 7 out of 10. So it's good Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, I caught it right at the right time. And I guess there's always something to be said for people lowering your expectations, and then you wind up going, okay, well, not bad.
Yeah, well, I watched it before. I actually was messaging Drinker when I was watching it, saying, "Have you seen The Electric State yet?" And he said, "I'm about to put it on now." And I texted him and said, "Watch Adolescence first. It's definitely better." But,
maybe that's why I didn't like it. It's going from something like high quality like Adolescence to
I think he only just put Adolescence on yesterday,
Okay.
so he saw this first. I like this title. I don't know if this is Spanish. Estrado Eléctrico. That works better for me. Did anybody not give their rating for this? Anyone? I think we got.
Well, I didn't because I haven't seen it, but I've got to be honest with you. As Tox has championed this, I actually am going to watch this.
Okay.
So I'm going to go against all you naysayers.
Report back next week and let us know.
I shall.
What you thought of it. Now, before we go into our next choice, which is actually an oldie. So one of my panelists has picked an older film. I'm going to take a risk because sometimes the older trailers don't get flagged, and we're going to watch the trailer. We're going to trailer. Yeah, that's right. Going to watch the trailer for this one, guys.
Your T-minus 18 seconds from liftoff. We T-minus 15 seconds.
Will you and your men please follow me?
Jerry, what the hell is this?
This is an emergency. Please follow me now.
T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8. We have ignition. 6, 5. We have outboard engines. 3. We have inboard engines. 1, 0. We have a launch commit. We have a liftoff at 35 minutes after the hour.
Every split second of this historic flight, every intimate detail, every heartbeat was monitored by Mission Control in Houston.
This is Capricorn 1. We have landed.
As millions all over the world watched and listened, the President of the United States spoke to the astronauts across the vastness of space.
To the men of Capricorn 1, I bring you greetings from your fellow Americans.
There's only one small catch. It never happened. It's all a lie, a fantastic $30 billion hoax.
Something's wrong, and I don't know what it is.
Dig deep enough, you might uncover the truth.
Those signals couldn't have come from 300 miles.
But the odds are, you'll never live to tell it.
Freeze! I'm not moving an inch.
They're on the plane together. There's a device. It's on the plane. There's some people. If I don't get an all clear signal, they'll explode it.
Something's wrong. Something big. They know I'm onto it, and they try to kill me. Who's they? I can't tell you.
We are dead.
You tell me you're in trouble, you're out on bail, you just got fired, I tell you I'll be right over.
My head hurts.
You look awful.
Thank you very much.
Quite welcome.
These people are capable of anything.
You sound so close. It's hard to believe you really are that far away in space.
It's hard for me to believe it, too.
You're up to something. You want my help.
I'm going to pause it there because I think we're about to get cut off. A bit like the transmissions in Capricorn 1. So, yeah, this is a film I first saw on TV when I was a kid. not long after its release. It came out in 77. I think it debuted. It was on the Christmas lineup, I think, either for 79 or 1980 British television. And I remember thinking, oh, that looks exciting. And Telly Savalas is in it. And I was a big Telly Savalas guy. So, you know, fan of watching Kojak when I was a kid. And yeah, Capricorn 1, which is also based on the book of the same name. I have a fantastic poster for Capricorn 1 that one of my subscribers bought for me, actually, and sent it to me from the States. Oh. And I have it in a tube. I haven't been able to find a frame that fits it. But I've got a great poster for it. It's in a tube behind me. I'll see if I can grab it in a sec. But yeah, it's basically about a mission to Mars which goes wrong, and because the mission goes wrong, but there's loads of money involved, what they do is they take the astronauts off before the rocket actually launches, and they convince them to fake it. And this is all based on the supposition that maybe the moon landings were faked in order to keep NASA's funding going. Inside Man, it's your pick, so I'll let you take over from here. But I'm just going to say I absolutely love this film, and I particularly love the score. The music is so good.
Yeah, I think I have to be honest that this was the movie that really switched me on to Jerry Goldsmith more than any other movie. And it is one of the best movie scores of all time, and certainly one of his greatest. But that aside, I mean, this story, you know, I think people watching it today would say, "Oh, yeah, well, that's just like the moon landings and everything, isn't it? You know, the fake moon landings." But this is the story that came first. This is the story that kind of inspired all of those conspiracy theories. So this is the one that kicked all those kind of nut jobs off, you know, with their kind of wacky ideas. Nonetheless, it's brilliantly directed. It's beautifully shot, and one of my favorite science fiction movies. And it's a hard sci-fi, so there's no kind of science fantasy about it. I just adore this film. I mean, I loved it since I was a kid. I think I saw it in '78 at theaters. It was a drive-in theater that I saw this at, actually. It blew me away. It just blew me away. It had a profound effect on me, and I've loved it ever since. Cast is amazing. Elliot Gould is absolutely on tip-top form as always. You know, such a great actor. I
mean, OJ Simpson's also in the film. We should say, but not for long.
Not for long.
Sam Waterston is very good in it. Hal Holbrook is quite scary in it. I mean, it's a great film. And then I was lucky enough that the Prince Charles in London was showing this at the cinema a couple of years ago. And one of the actors in my acting class hadn't seen it. And I was like, mate, I'm going to go and see this film. Let me know if you want to come. And I got him a ticket as I think it was like a birthday present or something for him. Anyway, and then that's it was around that time that I was talking on the channel and saying how much I love this movie. And one of the people watching, I forget who, and if they're in the chat, please say, then sent me this. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and actually, it's a slightly different poster. And the cover of the book was similar to this, except where the plane is, there was the studio. So you could see the studio reflected in the helmet of the spaceman. There was a butterfly on the cover of the helmet. So there was like a butterfly, you know, so you knew it was faked because butterfly obviously couldn't survive in space. I don't know. Is this one of the films that you can see the whole thing on YouTube?
I don't know. I haven't looked. I mean, I just watched my own personal copy.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it on DVD. There you go. That's the poster I've got. And it is a really good film. All practical effects. There's a scene where these helicopters crash, and that footage is also in an episode of the A-Team.
Yeah.
And these helicopters like flying into a mountain, and
Yeah.
then in the episode of the A-Team, they cut to a shot of some smoking records in the background, and these guys going, "Oh yeah, my arm hurts." Like, you know,
it's funny they seem to have done that a lot in the A-Team. I also recall that there was an episode of the A-Team where, you know, the scene in Airplane with the 747 or the nose of the 747 just crashes through into the terminal. That was also in an episode of the A-Team.
Right.
So yeah. So sorry, sidetracking slightly, but yeah. This is this is a really special film. It's you know, I do watch this quite regularly. This is at least a once a year movie for me. When you have these movies that you love so much, you know, and you know exactly what you're going to get. But it's no less thrilling watching this a second, third, fourth, or 50th time for me, as it was the first time I saw it. It still, as they say, pumps my nads when I watch it. So
I think only two of the cast are still alive, which is Elliot Gould and James Brolin. No, Sam Waterston is still alive. I think he's still around.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think because he did the killing. He did the Killing Fields.
Killing
didn't he?
Fields.
I'm pretty sure he's still around.
It's a great
but
film.
yeah, I mean, it is good. It's got some great stunts. Like I said, a fantastic score. I love the score. Really do like the score for this music. It is one of Jerry Goldsmith's best, and
most recognizable as well, isn't it? It's one of his most recognizable scores. I mean, the thing about Jerry Goldsmith is that when you listen to an awful lot of his stuff, and I have a massive collection. I think I have probably about 70 or so Jerry Goldsmith soundtracks. A lot of them, you know, he uses some very similar sort of musical tropes, if you like, so musical motifs. Whereas, you know, you don't necessarily have a standout piece of music or theme tune, but this is one that does have that. The same with obviously The Omen. Yeah, you know, but this is absolutely one of my favorite Goldsmith scores. But I just love it. I love the look of the movie. You know, it's and the whole conspiracy. It's the first time that I was really sort of introduced to a real sort of conspiracy theory movie. And it stuck with me, and it's a very
I
close
think
to my heart.
this was the first conspiracy film that I saw. Now, this is directed by Peter Hyams, who also directed Time Cop. He also directed Running Scared, which is one of my favorite cop buddy movies of all time. And he was, about a year ago, he was going to come on the channel, and Stupenzo did the thumbnail poster for me and everything. And he was ill, so he had to cancel. And I was really looking forward to talking to him about this. And I don't know if you remember Inside Man, but how that came about was one of the people on our channel who came on for an interview. Now, was it David McGiffert, or was it?
It was David McGiffert. It was David McGiffert, because he was the first AD on this, wasn't he? I believe.
No. David McGiffert's first job was on this film. He wasn't the first AD.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he was like he started off as doing one job on this, and he got upgraded to a couple of things. But he had those fantastic shots of the rocket ship, which I thought was a real rocket ship that they'd shot and just like filmed a real launch, and it was actually a massive model, and I was so surprised.
Incredible model work.
Yeah,
you know, and as you said, so many.
All three of the actors still alive, all in their 80s. So you know.
Yeah. But as you said, and you continue to say, about a lot of these older movies, that when you look at the practical side of movie making, how this was, the level of work and expertise, skill, and craftsmanship that goes into the making of something like this, and I'm also actually going to cite Ryan Kruger on this. The interview that we did with Ryan Kruger on Street Trash. you know, he's somebody that appreciates the kind of aesthetic, this kind of practical filmmaking, because he shot his film Street Trash on 35 mil, and you know, I think we both alluded to, hearing the money rolling through the camera as you're shooting, and I think it does, and as he said, you know, it focuses everybody. Everybody is absolutely on the ball and on tip-top form on the day when you shoot on film. Now, when you have a disposable medium, and it is very, very disposable in terms of, you know, you can delete absolutely anything. You know, so when you have a disposable medium like digital photography or digital filmmaking, as wonderful as it is and as versatile as it is, and as pliable and malleable as it is, you can just keep on rolling and keep on rolling, and you don't have to get it right first time. And that sounds great, that you don't have to get it right first time, but it also dilutes the craftsmanship and the skill of the filmmakers, but predominantly the actors. I think there's a dilution of talent with digital filmmaking. So, and this is a wonderful example of all, you know, everything being practical, absolutely everything being practical, and how it comes together in a fantastic piece of work. I love it. And Peter Hyams, great director, absolutely terrific director.
Yeah, fantastic, great recommendation. I mean, this movie's an easy 9 out of 10 from me. What's your score on it?
I mean, this is a 10 for me all day long. I love it. I really love it.
Rest of the panel, has anybody else seen it? Give your rating now if you have. If you want to chip in very quickly, please do. Stupenzo? No, not seen it. No, no. What? I'm manning the wall. What? Okay. What? I'm eating some Mexican. What's going on? What? Okay.
Crickets.
All right. Fair enough. If anyone in chat has seen Capricorn 1, give it your rating now. Paul gives it an 8 out of 10. Fairly respectful. Yeah. Peter Hyams did also direct Outland. We talked about Outland the other week, and I think also Northern did a stream on Outland not that long ago as well. So, Toxic, coming to you next. You're going to talk about Gone Baby Gone, which, of course, first came out as a best-selling book. Was adapted into a film. I have an imported American DVD of this. This had just gone on sale when I arrived in the States to attend a historical games convention. That reminds me, please don't let me forget to do a shout out to the late Jack Green before the stream finishes. I was kind of I just bought this DVD on the strength of Ed Harris, Morgan Freeman, and Casey Affleck being in it. I didn't know anything about it. Watched the film, thought it was good. I've never watched it since. It's one of those that sat in my collection. Haven't put it back on since because it's quite heavy. But tell us why you've picked this. Why is this your recommendation?
Well, the other week you had indicated that we should do something post St. Paddy's Day Irish like that. Obviously, this heavy Irish influence. This takes place in Dorchester, Massachusetts, where my Irish family is from originally. It's a 1998 novel from Dennis Lehane, an Irish former hoodlum turned private investigator turned novelist, part of his Kenzie and Gennaro book series. You may recognize the name. Books adapted by him besides this was Mystic River, Shutter Island, like that. So The Drop. So
Mystic River, very much similar, in a very similar tone to this, isn't it?
Yeah,
much so.
Yeah. He writes heavy stuff, but he also has he's smart enough to put a little bit of a release valve that doesn't include Marvel quippy dialogue, but more, it's I think it's the 5th in the series of the Kenzie and Gennaro. It's a husband and wife private investigator team. You know, they're basically street kids who, instead of turning to crime or becoming cops, they kind of fell in the middle, becoming private detectives. They get embroiled in a case of searching for a little girl who's gone missing one night from her bedroom. The mom is kind of a toxic drug addict involved in really shady stuff. So all points kind of direct towards there. Ed Harris and John Aston play detectives working for Morgan Freeman's got a task force for missing children. They get involved with the two detectives and they try to suss out, what exactly happened to her and where she went as the clock is ticking on how long she's been gone. And it's got a big twist, which I won't obviously speak on here in case anyone hasn't read it or seen it. I don't want to spoil it, but the twist isn't the big thing in it. The big thing in it is it is a heavy premise, sure, but it's also the weight of all of the the subject matter doesn't take away from what the actors in the movie do. I did one of my, I do that series, Consider the Source, the book versus whatever it's adapted to. I did one on this. It got a pretty good positive response. A lot of people are surprised that I do in fact like the movie better. It's a stacked cast and incredibly directed by Ben Affleck. And he got Casey, his younger brother, to play the protagonist. And I think, everybody's really firing on all cylinders in this film. Even the low level side characters that only get one scene are just knock it out of the park. It's during that really great time between 2005 and 2010 when we had just these like crazy stellar performances coming out, No Country for Old Men and this and Michael Clayton and a few other of those kind of thriller movies where everybody's just really giving it their all in this. It diverges from the book pretty significantly in some spots, but its overall tone stays the same. And it's definitely my favorite of the Irish Boston crime thriller things. We did this last year. Enzo, myself, and the Usual Suspects did this on Losers Lounge. And it's one of our more higher rated film. Unfortunately, we were kind of goofing off and being kind of a little, because we had Gord King with us, being kind of funny during some of the more serious stuff, but that's all to the best. But I really can't recommend this enough. I wish that they were doing more of the Kenzie Gennaro books, because there's like 7 or 8 of them and they're all stellar. This is actually, if I'm going to be honest, this book that this is based on is kind of one of the weaker stories. But it's just incredible, and Ed Harris especially should have gotten a Best Supporting Oscar, at least nomination, if not a win, for what he does. He has a monologue in about halfway through the movie, almost leaning towards the third act, that just it'll chills and just blow you away. I wish you could play it, but I don't think that's
I know the monologue you mean, and I would agree with you. 100%. Yeah, it's a good solid movie. I mean, the only thing I would say about it for me, and I'd say the same with Mystic River, is it doesn't have a great rewatch value as opposed to, say, something like The Shawshank Redemption, which I'll probably watch at least once a year. Mystic River, again, is another one of those films that, like, God, this is good. God, the acting's good. God, this film makes me feel really cold and uncomfortable. Not sure I want to watch it again anytime soon.
He also wrote those books. He has worked with kids who have been like abused.
Oh yeah,
as well. and they're both done by the same author.
Yeah.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. This film is good. If you haven't seen it, you should absolutely watch it. I have only watched it the once, and that was, and I do own it. I physically got a copy of it, but I haven't watched it again. And I think. I watched it. No, I might be lying. I might have watched it with my ex-wife. I think we did watch it, so that might have been the second time I saw it, because I do like introducing good films to people that haven't seen them before, and that's usually when I watch something like this. I'll watch it again. But yeah, man, this film is disturbing. it's up there with a capital D. What's your rating out of 10 for this, Toxic?
I mean, this is a 10 out of 10. And as I said on my show, I feel because they do cut sling load some of the stuff that's really not necessary in the novel, and the stuff they change is, I think, and it's an improvement. I think it's an improvement on the source material. So I think Ben Affleck is just so underrated for what he was able to pull off here with this. And Casey, I mean, he's just incredible. And again, like I said, all the smaller, even like one scene part actors are just
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, and this I think her name's Amy Ryan. She gives
Yeah.
such a performance that it's so good because she makes you detest her in every.
I mean,
which
yeah,
is what
she's got that line right at the end, and I'm not going to give it away, but like when she says it, I'm just like, "Fuck you, man!" You're like,
because the ending's not really a clear cut ending. It's more like a character's made a decision, and now he has to live with it.
It's a great morality. It's a great morality
Yeah.
tale, and I have rewatched it several times. I've also reread it, believe it or not, and I think that the question of morality comes up so much that, you know, what would you do in this given situation, and depending on what your answer is will really kind of inform on the kind of person that, it's kind of like when we do the Shield, Lance. It's like, you know, back in the day, I thought Vic was alpha male. He was the baddest of the bad, and he was here. And now I'm just disgusted by him. Every time we watch the show, I'm more, you know, Team Claudette. It's kind of the same way here. I thought a certain way when I first watched it in 2007, and I completely have changed. But I can't go into more detail just because it would give away the twist of the end.
Interesting. So. All right. Other ratings out of 10 for this film quickly before we move on.
Give it 10 out of 10. It's so good.
Right. Yeah, I'm also going to give it an 8. And on that, Stupenzo, you're up. What do you got for me this week, buddy?
Oh man, I watched a weird movie that came out recently, and I just thought it looked interesting, and I'd give it a shot. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised by a movie called Ghost Cat Anzu.
What?
Yeah. It's this anime that I don't know. I don't know why I decided to watch it. It's a movie. It's called Ghost Cat Anzu.
Good. Did you say ghost?
Typical Japanese though, doesn't it? It does sound typical Japanese.
Well,
anime.
version
Hang on. Give me the title. Did you say Ghost Cat? Ghost Cat
Anzu.
Ghost Cat Enzo.
Yeah, close.
Oh, Ghost Cat
A-N-Z,
Enzo. I got it.
I'll check it out. Ghost Cat Enzo.
This movie was legit hilarious and very sweet, and it was kind of like Spirited Away, but very funny. And yeah, it's like this lady, this little 5th grade girl is being dropped off at some you know, just like Spirited Away. It's like some nice place in the Japanese country, and the father is like a gambling addict who is going to leave this daughter there while he goes and tries to pay off these bookies he owes money to. And I guess there's like this giant bipedal cat that lives here, and he talks, and he's like a roommate, and they basically say that he's like he's a temple cat. Basically they adopted this kitten, and like 30-40 years later the cat was still alive and not, you know, showing any signs of diminished health, and he basically became a ghost cat. And yeah, it's just this weird very, very funny movie. Japanese humor is like hit or miss with me. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like this movie a lot. If you like Spirited Away, and if you liked, I don't know how to explain it, like the Napoleon Dynamite movies, then yeah, you should check this out, because it was very weird and funny and very cute. Apparently, like, yeah, her mom has died like 3 years ago, and the dad promises he'll be back by the time the anniversary is, so they can go visit her grave together. And Ghost Cat, with all of his other little spirit temple friends, like there's like a giant frog creature. I don't know. I think you should just watch the trailer. It's just it's nuts. I can't really explain a whole lot about it other than it was just really, really wild and zany and very cute. It was a good one.
What would you give it out of 10?
I give it an 8 out of 10. The animation also is like top of the line, and it's like really cool animation style. I don't know. We're getting more of these kind of computer assisted anime movies, and also the character designs are very comic art. It was a wild one. It was cool. This is a great like summer day off. You want to chill and watch a movie real quick while you're lounging around. I recommend this. It was good. I liked it.
Okay, people. Ghost Cat Enzo. Enzo.
Yeah.
Is out now. I quite like this style of art. It's got a bit of a Studio Ghibli vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, and like the version I found online was French, and yeah, I don't know if the Japanese version is just as funny, but like Ghost Cat, like Anzu, he's always throwing meows in his dialogue, which is hilarious. And yeah, it was just wild. I definitely recommend it.
Okay.
It sounds a little bit like reminds me of a Pomporco a bit, where it just has this really bizarre sense of humor.
Yeah, it is kind of Punporco, Miyazaki inspired. Apparently, the people who did it were made some anime shows I've never heard of, but they're very kind of more like I've been hearing it's like the Japanese, like South Park is what they're known for making. But this is more family friendly. I think it's like
the Japanese South Park. I would like to see that.
Yeah, I never heard of it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll probably check that out too." But yeah, this
Dolphin the wheels.
Yeah, this guy right here is the god of poverty, and like this buddy of his.
He looks like the god of poverty. I'll be honest.
Yeah, this buddy of his is like, he's always flat broke, and it's because the god of poverty is living with him. So he's like, "All right, well, we're gonna draw straws, and if you get the short straw, you have to leave my friend alone." I don't know, dude. It's just wild. It was just really weird. There's like a lot of they go to like the nether realm, the spirit world where all the demons live, and that shit was just wild. Like I said, very much like Spirited Away, but way funnier. It was cool.
Okay, so 8 out of 10 for that. Has anybody else seen the Enzo Cat?
No.
No one's even heard of it.
I'm sold.
Put it on my list. I like these sort of like outlandish, these sort of outlandish movies with that kind of crazy sense of humor. It's another reason why I like One Punch Man. It's just so out there with the humor, and it's definitely typical Japanese humor as well.
Indeed, sounds it. Where can people see this incredible film?
That's a good question. Legally, I think you can watch it on let's see,
Blu-ray.
Nowhere. Like I don't think any free. I don't think it's available on any free streaming service. You probably have to pay $5 to watch it legally, but it's out there on the internet. That's I won't divulge.
Okay. That's all well and good. We have another very important poll coming up in the chat. By the way, Inside Man is a raisin according to 41% of the
only 41. Only
41. But we have another. We have another crucial poll. Is Inside Man the god of poverty? As displayed on the screen right now. The options are yes, no. Lance is always broke. It's him or Enzo. So those are the options. Just in case.
So let's just say, I just need to clarify, right? Is the god of poverty, somebody who controls people's poverty, or is he?
Yeah, he's like a little like I don't know, like if he's living in your house with you, you're cursed to like not have any success. It was very weird.
Oh right. Okay.
There's like a giant frog friend that he has that lives in this like underground hot spring. There's like a lot of cool stuff like that. There's like these little quail that he befriends, and it turns out that they're actually like forest sprites. So they grow up to the size of basketballs, and they're like running around like speaking English or Japanese or whatever. It's very weird.
Well, I really like the sound of this. We're going to break away from strange frogs and grumpy old poverty men, and go back to 1998, a time when things were simpler, and Kurt Russell was soldier. So this is Northern English Bastard's pick for this evening. Just a little bit of background here. I was at the very first UK screening of this. It was a private industry screening that was arranged by Chris Jones, who runs the London Screenwriters Festival, and Jason Isaacs was the guest there. And it was basically all the people that were invited were like indie directors, so I got to come. And Soldier was due to have a fairly big UK release, but that release was massively pared down. It didn't really get the release it deserved. It was mishandled by the distributors somewhat. It also felt a bit late in the day. It felt more like an 80s action movie. However, despite some of the early CGI work in the film, there is some in some of the space battle stuff not aging particularly well. I have to say, I have a massive soft spot for this film. I love the vehicles that they built for the movie, the two crawlers. I like all the weaponry. I like Kurt Russell's performance. I like the fact that he says almost nothing in the film. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun action movie. You do have to part with a fair bit of Clanad, which, not my favorite soundtrack band. But anyway, Northern, this is your pick, mate. So I'll tell you, remind me to tell you a funny story that Jason Isaacs told about this film before we move on. But yeah, Northern, why did you pick Soldier?
Well, this was the first time I got a chance to watch it, and I was hearing it was kind of like a low sequel to Blade Runner, as there is little references to it. But I just like the beginning as well. He gets straight to the point about the upbringing he had, the indoctrination, the militant drilling into his mentality to become this hardened killer, and how he slowly starts to be humanized after he's discarded, and he ends up with this these people who are kind of settled on this planet. And even though he doesn't do a lot of facial movements or speaking, he still somehow conveys a lot just with his eyes and the humanity that's starting to develop in him with these people, especially Sean Pertwee. And I really like that. It gives a lot of character development with barely any words said. And this is coming from a character that's basically just a blank slate, who's just a machine. And I don't know how Kurt Russell does that, but he makes this machine-like guy human by barely doing anything. I don't know how he's done that, but that is very clever. And all this is done by the same guy who did the Resident Evil movies. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, his wife's got to make a living somehow. She's run out of directors to sleep with.
Well,
so,
she's not on this anyway, but she is in Resident Evil.
They hadn't. I don't think they'd met. I don't think they'd
No, they
met.
didn't, no.
She was with
She
the
was
guy
with
who
Luke Besson then, wasn't she? And I think she
She
did
was with
Joan
Luke,
of Arc around the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that Paul Anderson's best movies are the ones that Mila Jovovich are not in. There's this,
They are.
and Horizon, and Mortal Kombat. Those are his best
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually think this is probably his best film.
No, I like
Because
Event Horizon more, but this is second. Second
I
best.
like the first half an hour of Event Horizon, but as soon as it goes down you're going to see your greatest nightmare, I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, we've seen that in about 50 other films.
Yeah,
so
because they cut it out, didn't they? And stuffed it somewhere in Transylvania. Apparently, that's the legend anyway. The actual
Well, I just
nightmare. Yeah.
as soon as they went down that road, it's just I mean, I don't really care whether that stuff was cut or not cut, but it just as soon as it went into that whole genre of it's your worst nightmare. I've seen that in so many other movies where people are forced to face their own nightmare. I wanted it to be just a bit more of an. I mean, we're not going to do Event Horizon now, but that I love the first half hour of Event Horizon where we still don't know what's going on.
I mean, as I
Yeah,
said
I know
to
you
you before,
mentioned
it's really Event Horizon's really just the black hole meets Hellraiser, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The black hole meets Hellraiser, and I would have preferred if it was
That's a really
black
good.
hole.
That's
If it
a
was
really
the black
good
hole meet,
suggestion.
if it was the black hole meets Alien, I would have preferred it. I have to
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy
yeah.
that you mentioned. It's funny that Toxic mentioned the Shield as well, because Michael Chiklis is in this as well, and he's got a bit of hair on him. It's
Oh yeah, he's
that's-
one of the he's
yeah.
one of the colonists, isn't he?
yeah, he
That's
gives
the
him the scarf as well,
the
and when he's
commish era,
yeah.
commish era Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, and he gives him the scarf as well, and it's very kind of tragic because once he's banished from the settlement for going crazy, he's wearing the scarf. And it doesn't waste time with big exposition dumps when Sean Pertwee realizes that he was teaching the kid to kill the snake in the first place. He's like, he doesn't give this big load of dialogue. He just goes up to him and said, "Listen, the decision we made was wrong. We're sorry," and that's it. and there's an understanding between them, and it's kind of a shame Pertwee's character dies, though. But yeah, you need that sort of motivation for him to, you know, take on his evil leaders. And Jason Isaacs is basically just typical villain duties, but he's still having fun with it. And even Gary Busey is kind of just not an actual asshole this time. He's kind of, yeah, he's in this dirty business, but he's also kind of becomes the voice of reason in comparison to Jason Isaacs.
How you doing, Gary Busey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know Gary Busey's the same one in this. It's crazy.
He's pretty subdued. Yeah, he's pretty subdued in this. That's funny you say that. I always thought, I was like, because this is well into the kind of slide into madness that he's done, and he's really subdued.
I think he was going crazy around this time because he had that accident, and I don't think he was ever the same. I mean, and that with the cocaine off, snorting cocaine off a bloody dog as well didn't help.
Well, this film was a massive flop when it came out. I mean, I have to say
it's a shame.
It was very poorly handled in terms of its distribution, but it cost $60 million to make it. Only made 14.6 worldwide. It was primarily released in the UK and the United States, and after it didn't do very well there, I think they tried to just push it out onto video and DVD as soon as possible. I think it's a good but flawed movie. There are things about it that don't work for me, and occasionally I think tonally it's a bit all over the place. Like, you know, that sequence where the Clan ad music comes in. Every time I watch it, I just get the remote. Let's skip past this scene. I don't need to hear Clan ad while these ships are dumping rubbish everywhere. But I do like it. I think it's a good movie, and I think Jason Isaacs is great in it. He's just, you know, playing the typical villain. Connie Nielsen's good in it. Yeah, it's a fun movie, especially the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes are a lot of fun. I've watched the last 30 minutes of this film probably about 100 times. Not quite bored there, Chickless.
Yeah. Connie Nielsen is still looking good as well. I mean, she's got to be in.
Of course she is. She's a Nielsen. You know, Nielsen's always look good. So
nice.
Yeah.
So
what
it's always good.
Rating out of 10, Northern, and in those in the chat, I'll be very interested to hear what you think of Soldier. Give us your rating out of 10, please, in the chat.
I give it a good 9 out of 10. I mean, it's not the greatest film ever, but it does do a lot right. And like I said, a film that does a lot right, by the same guy who did the bloody Resident Evil movies.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Ratings from the rest of the panelists, please.
I'd give it an 8. It's an easy 8. I mean, it is a good film, and of course, you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell. So,
yeah, I'd give it a 7. It's fun.
Yeah, okay. I'll give it a 7. It's a fave. I pop on every night. I kind of take issue with how the advanced soldiers just kind of fall all over themselves in the third act, but that's fine. It is what it is. It seems like a rushed third act is my only issue, but Kurt Russell's just, I mean, he's just amazing in it, even with the limited dialogue.
And the bits where he's developing his humanity with his people were probably my favorite scenes.
I kind of feel like No Escape did a very similar thing better a few years earlier, but I mean,
yeah, I know that came out
in a long time. I don't remember what's his name. Stuart Wilson as the villain. He was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was Guylaine Hurd produced that. We talked about that on the interview with her very briefly.
Yeah.
And
you can't go wrong with Ray Liotta as well.
That was 1995, I think, that movie.
94.
I think we got it in the UK in 95.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always forget that you guys get it later for some reason.
Yeah. Well, around then, it was always between 6 months to a year's gap. Oh, yeah, I'd give Soldier an 8 out of 10. It's a film I'm quite happy to watch. I might even pop it on tonight. For those people who don't have physical media, is it currently available on any of the major streaming platforms?
Ooh, good question.
I've not seen anything.
Good to know that no one knows the answer to that.
Well, I have it on iTunes, so I can watch it whenever I want. So,
yeah, you can watch it on. Again, it's not anywhere available on any streaming services. I think you can watch it anywhere. For $3, $4.
I'd be willing to bet it's on Tubi or something like that, or one of them free platforms.
It is not.
It was not. Oh, okay, I lied. All right, sorry.
It's only available on It's on Amazon and YouTube and Google and Apple, but it's like $4 everywhere.
We're getting tight on time, so I'm going to whiz through a couple of things. Last night on the Cannoli Sasquatch channel, which is a bunch of guys I really love, and Vex said to me, "You can come on any time." And I saw they were doing Boondock Saints, and everybody was talking about what an amazing film it was, and I was like, I personally think it's a very average movie.
It is,
and especially, basically the creator of Boondock just copied everything else that was out around that time. It was the kind of Tarantino, indie sort of heist movies and all of that. And it's a really poorly made film. And I really wanted to get on the stream and say why. But despite the open invite that I've apparently got, I did not get sent the link. And the thing I kept shouting in the chat is, you've got to mention Overnight. And
yeah,
I couldn't believe that.
I was about to bring it up. Overnight's amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't believe there was a panel of 5 people talking about the Boondock Saints, and none of them had seen Overnight. So if you haven't seen Overnight, it's the documentary that was being made at the same time as Boondock Saints was being shot by a couple of the crew who were working on Boondocks. Were also supposed to be making this companion piece about their buddy, the wonderful, talented Troy Duffy, filmmaker. Tony Montana and Mark Bryan Smith were the 2 people. And what actually ended up happening was, because Troy Duffy was basically a bully, a narcissist, and
delusions of grandeur.
Had delusions of grandeur. It all went to his head. It all went to he got this film deal with Miramax. He was seen as kind of Harvey Weinstein's next boy. He thought he was going to be the next Tarantino. He spun all his friends a load of bullshit about taking them all along with him. They all quit their jobs to kind of film. I think it was called the Consortium, their film company, and I don't think he gave them or really paid them properly out of the development money that he got. They did go ahead and they did manage to shoot the film, but he was such an arrogant asshole. All the crew hated him. Everybody hated him. Harvey Weinstein hated him. Harvey Weinstein deliberately shoehorned the release of Boondock Saints so nobody saw it. The 2 guys that were filming the documentary that was supposed to show Troy off in the best possible light realized basically what they had was a documentary about a car crash of a guy who was going off the rails. And that was the film that got a bigger release than Boondock Saints. I actually saw Overnight at the cinema, and it's the rise and fall of Troy Duffy, and he's basically blacklisted in Hollywood, because everybody was saying, why hasn't he made anything else on this stream last night? And I was shouting in the chat, he's blacklisted. It's quite well known. Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Right. I also was really just disappointed with Boondock Saints. I don't understand the love for it. I mean, it's okay. It's not even okay. It's just I
can explain that. Really, just Boondock Saints was one of the casualties of the Columbine shooting. It got kind of shelved because of that, like as a lot of movies did that were hyper violent and stuff. And then
that's not true. That's not true. It got shelved because Weinstein fell out with Duffy, and Weinstein deliberately shelved the movie. I can tell you that's well known within the industry. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of violent films were some of them were postponed and stuff like that. Boondock Saints was deliberately taken off.
Right. If you let me
release, but go on.
Let me finish.
All right.
So we were supposed to get it at our theater, and when it got sidelined, regardless of what the inside dope, and I'm sure you're right because you know way more about the inside of movies than I do. Regardless of that, that's how it was touted that it was another casualty of that. So
that could have been the official line.
When it came on DVD and VHS, after a bunch of watered down films had come out and movies were changed from Killing Mrs. Tingle to Teaching Mrs. Tingle and all this kind of stuff, after you can only rewatch The Matrix so many times. Buffy was removed from airing, things like that. After all that stuff happened, when it hit VHS and DVD, people, which was brand new at the time, people were passing this movie around, and it was that great outlet of just hyper violence, Tarantino-esque shtick, which I agree with you guys. It's not nearly as great as everybody makes it out to be, but people they had not seen it. Like, things were so vanilla for like 6, 7, 8 months. The pendulum had swung that other way so hard that all this hyper, violence and cussing and all this kind of crazy over the top stuff really they were like, oh, this is so great. And it was ripe for the market that it was on. I don't think if it was released in theaters, it would have done as well. But I think the kind of underground feel people had of passing around the movie, made it, what it was. And they were talking about that on the show last night, which I was listening to. So, it is what it is.
I don't know. I just heard from all my friends, you got to check it out. It's badass. And I watched it and I was like, this movie's like very try hard, and
completely agree.
Lame. I do like Ron Jeremy playing Enzo in that movie. That was cool. But other than that,
I bet you do.
Yeah, but the Overnight is way more interesting. Also, the Overnight is on YouTube, by the way, and it's just like that documentary, The Sweatbox, which was about.
Can you pop the link in? Pop the link in the chat, man, because you're a mod, aren't you?
For the Overnight, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Please do, so people can watch it.
So The Sweatbox is that documentary about Sting's wife, chronicling him involved in the Emperor's New Groove. And, it starts out as a documentary about one thing and it evolves into another documentary about this other thing, this much more crazier thing. And that's kind of what happened with The Overnight. It's like a documentary about the making of the Boondock Saints, but you realize it's just a study of like grade A narcissism, like delusions of grandeur, this idea that like this guy's going to be the best, the greatest filmmaker, around. And he's just, he was obsessed with Entourage, or they're trying to do the Entourage thing, It was just very, very cringe. And then you realize it's kind of like vindicating, you're like, oh man, this is why this movie's so weird. The guy who made it is like kind of just a big moron, and all they do is just drink beer and hang out. Like they're just here to party, and the best filmmakers are kind of insane, but this guy is just like a dude bro, and I don't know. They just want to live in Hollywood and stuff. And just, that's the problem with like, Quentin Tarantino. You're just giving all these video store clerks this idea like, oh, I could do this. How hard could it be?
Right.
Yeah. They don't realize that he actually also went through a period of his film career, literally just humping boxes around and making coffee and, shoveling shit off of beaches,
selling quality scripts to other directors in order to get his stuff financed and things like that. Yeah.
So he's he really did do the rounds, and he wasn't, everyone seems to have been of the under the impression that Tarantino was an overnight success. Yeah. An overnight success over around about a 12-year period.
Right.
And putting in a shit ton of work. So,
oh my God, the comments on YouTube for this documentary. Top comment: this should be required watching for postgraduate psychology students who are learning about narcissistic personality disorder. His dynamic with the band is like watching an abusive husband with 3 wives.
Basically.
I love it when he says it's a cesspool of creativity. These are comments in the chat in the movie. We have a deep cesspool of creativity. Couldn't have said it better myself. The irony of the best thing to come from the cesspool was this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you haven't watched it, you've got to see Overnight. It's an incredible film. It's not available in the UK on that YouTube link, but it is available in the States.
Here's another good comment. This is like watching The Wolf of Wall Street, except he's really bad at what he does.
There is a bit of a revisionist history. People look at it now and we have these opinions. I'll tell you this though, man. I joined the army shortly after this movie came out, and the amount of soldiers that had Veritas and whatever on the tattooed on their arms.
I know.
This is astounding. Like,
this was one of those movies that I felt like I watched a different movie from all my friends. My friends were like fucking sucking this movie off all the time, and I was like, it's no professional,
I mean, and listen, I'm an indie filmmaker myself, and it's very rare that I'll have a pop at someone. because making films is very hard. But regardless of how edited or well crafted that documentary was to show a good, bad, or indifferent light of this guy, the way he behaved in the stuff that I did see was absolutely, utterly appalling. Now, to give him his due, you can go on to Indie Hustle and you can see his version, his sort of, it's only an 18-minute interview, so he didn't come on for very long. How Hollywood cancelled me, but I still directed Boondock Saints with Troy Duffy. Well, he didn't actually get cancelled until after he directed Boondock Saints, because he got cancelled when Overnight came out. That really was when he got cancelled. But he was on the industry grapevine before Overnight came out. His career was already dead because Harvey Weinstein was known for doing this to people. If you got on the wrong side of Weinstein, he would go around town and tell absolutely everybody not to work with that person, whether it was an actor,
Never gonna work in this
director,
town again.
whoever. And at that time, you've got to remember, he was one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood in the 90s. So his word carried a lot of weight.
Yeah,
as did his stomach,
as did his legs.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got to remember he did have a lot of power, and if he wanted to end somebody's career, he could do it. And after he did it, there's a scene in the documentary where Troy Duffy is like crying down the phone on his voicemail saying, you brought me in and I really look up to you. And this is after he's just behaved like a complete arsehole. I mean, he was just rude to absolutely everybody, including his own guys. So I can't really defend the guy, unfortunately.
No, I mean, it's one of those things that, there are certain people within the business, and, I've seen them. I've seen tons and tons of them. And when they don't last particularly long. And it's, how you act and how you treat people is how you're perceived. And thus, what follows on from that is how you then get treated. So, what goes around comes around and all that stuff. So
does it though?
Sow what you reap,
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, in the industry, if you hear on the grapevine that working with this person is going to be a problem, and there are 500 other people out there who want to do that same job that you can go and pick from, why would you go and work with the person you've heard is a problem, especially if that comes from a source or multiple sources that you trust? I mean, I've had this about actors that are not particularly big actors, but they're people you would consider getting in because, they're working their way up. They've got a bit of pull here. They might have a big Instagram following, who knows? And somebody else worked with them on another film, and you'll ask them, how was that person? Fuck me, don't work with them. There's one girl in particular I can think of that 4 directors have worked with, and every single one of them has said never again, never again. But she's got huge melons and just wears provocative dresses, so directors want to work with her. But also very devoid of talent.
I would probably submit, if I may, Lance, I would probably submit that the level at which people care about how affable and how workable you are with people, it can be juxtaposed against how much actual talent you have, because I'm pretty sure that some really famous and talented directors like Tarantino, like Stanley Kubrick, have some really bad, like James Cameron, have some really bad toxic stories of horrendous acts, but they make money and put asses in the seats and have a lot of talent, so we forgive them. Wouldn't you say that's probably true?
I think I mean, if you talk to the actors, for example, that worked on Aliens, and there's a really great podcast with 4 of them. They just did it at I think it was like Glasgow Comic-Con. It's about 3 weeks old. It's up on YouTube, and they often get asked that question. Was James Cameron a tyrant and all this kind of thing? Because he has got a reputation for cracking the whip and working people hard. But they said, he was like a general, but he was never deliberately rude or mean to them. It was all about getting the job done. He wouldn't, come over and start swearing at them and effing and blinding at them. He would at the tea lady that came in and chuck her tea trolley all over the place. That's a different story. But And I mean, it's a lot of people said Stanley Kubrick was difficult to work with. The difference here, though, is these people have made some of the best movies in cinema history.
Yeah.
Boondock Saints ain't that? So
no, that's what I'm saying. I think because I mean I don't want to get over the barrel on, you know, if you are a toxic douche, see what I did there. You know, people don't want to work with you. Well, yeah, that's not really true, because if you're a toxic douche but you're talented, people will work with you regardless. But like I said, if you're just a mid-level director of what is arguably a mid-level film, I agree with Enzo. I think you're gonna be, that's when they're gonna smell blood in the water and then be like, well, this guy's problematic and this and that. But I mean, if you're a Stanley Kubrick or a James Cameron, I would say look at the behind the scenes of The Abyss. If you have that kind of, then you can get away with it.
Everybody had a shit time on The Abyss. I mean, everybody, you know, and it was a nightmare. And Galen Hurd said that. And I mean, yeah, everybody had a shit time. By the way, this just Inside Man has in fact been confirmed as the god of poverty. I thought I had that nailed, but
yes, so I've got the power over all of you.
I only got 25% of the vote on that, so we're going to end up.
I'll have to sack some of my servants then.
Get them.
You are going to have to sack some of your
some of my
servants.
staff.
Anyway,
staff will have to go.
Overnight is a 9 out of 10 from me. It's a mandatory watch for any potential filmmaker.
Yeah.
And indeed, anyone who's doing any kind of psychology course on narcissists or anything similar. I did mention this film to a couple of people. I'm probably the only person who's seen it. It's called Delicious. Oh, great. I'm glad someone else has watched it. So it's called Delicious. It's French. It starts out as one thing, and then there's suddenly one scene where you go, hang on, what just happened there? And it's basically a sort of, what would I call it? Soft horror movie, where it's more about suspense and suggestion for a lot of the movie, and you're trying to work out what's going on. It's also to do with class. You know, the people that do all the shitty jobs and the rich people that are at the top of the tree, and how one might be about to take over the other. And there's lots of metaphors and stuff, and it's kind of a cool French horror film. I really liked it. I thought the ending was a bit but on the whole, I thought it was really good. There's one particular funny bit where they're all eating this really nice roast meat on the beach, and then when you're watching that scene and the penny drops and you think, oh shit, hang on a minute, I've just realized what they're eating. But anyway,
long pig.
Long pig.
Wow. Stupenzolicious, what did you think of it?
It was very French.
It is very French. Very French.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a little soft on the edges. I thought it could have been a little harder on what it was trying to do. But it's one of these movies that's speaking about society and marital relationships, and I thought it was okay.
And meat.
But very French. Yeah, very French movie. It's funny because there's that other French cannibal movie called Raw that was also kind of underwhelming, even though it was pretty good. I don't know. I thought it was okay. I think this one and Raw would be a good companion double feature.
A good double feature for when you've got your vegan and vegetarian friends over. Definitely a good double feature. I like one of the things I liked about the movie, because Proctor Files asked, "Is it about cannibals?" Well, yes and no. It's kind of ambiguous as to the nature of these people, but I like the fact that it's ambiguous. It could be vampires, they could be something else, they could be cannibals. That was kind of left open to interpretation, which I thought was kind of a good shout. But good movie. I thought I give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth watching. Enzo, what would you give it?
Yeah, 6 out of 10. It was fun. It was all right.
I knew he was going to go one lower. Just can tell. Raw, I haven't seen. Actually, I don't think I've seen Raw. I mean, not unless you count Toxic Raw. But anyway, we won't go there. All right. Has anybody got anything they want to mention quickly before we wrap up? Because that's about
Just a quick
all we've
documentary,
got time
the
for.
Go-Go Boys, the
Yeah.
Golem and Urine Globus documentary that was. It came sort of hot on the heels of Electric Boogaloo, the Electric Boogaloo documentary.
Yeah.
And of course, when they were asked to participate in the Electric Boogaloo documentary, all of a sudden, but of course they did, had their own documentary that they happened to be working on. And of course, I thought it was in comparison to Electric Boogaloo, I thought it was very self-centered, very self-grandizing sort of documentary, as these things usually are, because it was made on their behest and it was made about them. So all of the content that went into it was, they were given their seal of approval on it. So of course it's going to say anything but, we're really hard workers and we really love the movies, and we really tried hard, and we're good guys, really. The same way that
is it this one or the other one that's got the line where one of them suddenly goes, which really sums up the whole thing? But we forgot to pay attention to the quality of the film.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
it's
you did.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, this kind of reminds me slightly of that shitty The Kid Stays in the Picture documentary that was based on the Bob Evans, the Robert Evans book.
The Robert Evans. I did enjoy that film, actually.
Yeah,
but it's very self-aggrandizing.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just think, if you're going to make a documentary, let somebody else make the documentary about you. Don't make the documentary about yourself.
Because
we know that
there was nothing about the time that he had the mother and daughter over, and we won't go into what happened, but it's all like, what? yeah, a lot of that going on.
But it's okay. Not a patch on Electric Boogaloo, to be honest. But it's okay. It kind of gives you a little bit more of an additional impression of who or what they were.
Right. Okay. What would you give it out of 10?
Probably a 6. It's okay. It's not sort of compulsive viewing, but like I say, if you want to see anything about Canon movies, Canon pictures, then watch Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Electric Boogaloo, I'd give 9 out of 10. That's a great documentary, and it's a lot of fun. This is basically them cashing in, saying, "Hey, there's going to be another Canon one, and ours is going to have more clips in it because we own the rights to the catalog," sort of thing. I don't even know if they do anymore, but okay.
Hey, Lance, I know we're low on time, but are we not going to mention the Gene Hackman the package, or we've run out of time? I guess.
Shit. Do you know what? Thank you for reminding me. No, we are, because we are going to mention a Gene Hackman movie.
Thank God.
Every week. Yeah, I picked this one because it has just occurred to me that not a lot of people have seen this film. It didn't get a massive release, including in the UK. I was very lucky that I saw it at a film festival that was kind of themed around the Cold War and spy stuff. So I saw this. I saw another film called The Fourth War, which most people haven't seen, which is not as good as this. But this is basically a spy action thriller. It stars Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones. Reunites Hackman with Joanna Cassidy, who he's been in some other films with. And then you've got supporting cast of John Hurd, Dennis Franz from NYPD Blue, and a few others. It's directed by Andrew Davis, who directed Under Siege. But this is a movie that he did before that. And basically, it's kind of set just before, the Berlin Wall's coming down. So it's at the height of the Cold War, but peace processes starting to happen. So you've got like a Gorbachev lookalike who's coming to the United States for peace talks, which is going to, set up glasnost and lead to cooperation between America and Russia, a bit like what's going on now. And within that background, which is established very early on, Hackman is in charge of security for this meeting. Something goes wrong. These generals are taken out. His team is kind of ambushed. One of his men is killed. So he's kind of taken off that duty, and that all kind of is quite convenient. And he's given the job of bringing back a guy from East Berlin who went AWOL, who is Tommy Lee Jones's character, and bringing him back to the States, who then basically evades him. And he realizes later he's part of a conspiracy, and he's basically brought an assassin back into the United States who's going to topple these peace talks. And that's as much as I'm going to say without giving it too much away. It's an absolutely fantastic movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Tommy Lee Jones, it's one of his best performances, without a doubt. Hackman, you know, is on form. Joanna Cassidy's great in it. A lot of people will remember her from Blade Runner. Dennis Franz is basically playing his character from NYPD Blue. It's literally like Sipowicz is on holiday. He's in Chicago, you know, and he's a pal of Gene Hackman's character. So he just kind of slides into the role. But the action scenes in this are really, really good. And it's a film I'm constantly recommending to people. And it's another one that a lot of people just haven't seen. Thank you, Atom, for reminding me. Yes, that like button is not going to like itself. I'd ask my panelists all to give it a whack as well. And the like button, please. So, yeah, I mean, it's cracking. It's really, really good. This is one of John Hurd's best performances as well. Most people will know him as the dad in the Home Alone movies. But yeah, I mean, he's really, really good.
Sinister
in this. Inside Man, I know you've got to go. Did you want to say anything about this film before you duck out?
Absolutely love it. 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Fantastic. All
yeah,
right.
Sorry, I've got to leave, guys. But listen,
yeah.
It's been a pleasure as always.
No problem.
Yeah,
see you.
Sorry, I have to depart a little bit early. So.
We'll see you. We'll see you soon, and I'll have you on the interview next week if you're available, which I'll mention in a moment.
I certainly will make myself available for you. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
100%.
All right. Excellent.
All right then, chaps.
Take it easy, brother.
All right.
Yeah. Take it easy.
Inside Man needs to go wee, so we'll let him out. Okay, so yeah, if you haven't seen the package, anybody else want to rate the package out of 10 who has seen it? And if you've seen it in the chat, rate it out of 10 now.
Yeah, this is a favorite. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead. Sorry, carry on.
This is a favorite among veterans. It gets so much stuff right. I mean, I realize it's not as widely known as some of other Hackman's performances. I got to tell you, man, I think it's one of his best performances. It's so real. Yeah, he plays a career master sergeant so good in this. It's not hard to understand that, Hackman himself is ex-military, and I don't know any veteran that has seen this that doesn't just, it's not one of those that you can pick apart. Veterans tend to be a little harsher on military styled movies. Although they wouldn't do that, or he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't say that. And I mean, this just really gets it. And Hackman's so likable in this, he's really so put upon, and he's out of his depth in this. And again, I'm not going to spoil it either, but this is like, he's just a runner and a gunner top kick master sergeant that's just trying to do his job and be in the ideals that he has. Just really, you could see it wearing away at him, as the film goes on. And, again, you have this whole other realm of like regular army and politics. And then you have the shadow government stuff that goes on that will use great soldiers as pawns in these things. And and that's what I think
that whole subplot, which really parallels the JFK assassination, setting up the kind of the patsy and all that, is really, really well done and very, very believable. It's great. Before we go, and I give my guests, remaining guests, a chance to plug their channels and whatnot. Just want to say we've got an industry interview next Wednesday with Scottish actor Cameron Jack. He's been in the industry for quite a while, but he started his career. His big break was actually in the one of the early, if not the original, cast of Queen We Will Rock You, the musical, which was huge, has now traveled all over the world, of course. But he was one of the main cast, and he was in the show very, very early on. He was in it for a very long time, after which he went on to have a successful career in film and television. He's, if you're watching Wheel of Time, which I have to confess I'm not, but he's got a fairly major role in season 3 of the Wheel of Time. He's worked with people like Jason Statham. He was on The Dark Knight Rises, and has done all kinds of British television dramas. So he's coming in on Wednesday next week at 8 o'clock UK time. That'd be 3 p.m. East Coast, and I'm sure he's going to be a really interesting and fantastic guest. And it's not very often that I get people who've had a very successful career in a stage in musical that's gone all over the world, as well as somebody who's worked in film and TV. People tend to work in one or the other. So it's going to be interesting to talk to a guest who's kind of navigated both of those streams. So so look forward to talking to Cameron Jack next week. That'll be on Wednesday. Fantastic stuff. Stupenzo, you got anything you want to plug, buddy, before we wrap up?
It looks like tomorrow's movie is going to be the 1994 forgotten Moonbeam family film classic called Beanstalk. It's a weird ass Jack of the Beanstalk movie starring Margot Kidder, and it was weird. We enjoyed watching it, so check that out tomorrow. And then
Is that a pre-recorded thing or is that live?
Yeah, pre-recorded, but it'll be airing tomorrow at 2:30, and we'll be in the chat riffing it ×2. But it's a fun movie. And then nothing really until I guess Tales from the Dork Side Monday night. We'll see if I can squeeze in a Stupenzo cast, but I don't know. I'm feeling sick, so probably won't.
Is it worth watching Beanstalk? Should we track it down? Here is
no, just watch my video. It was not a good movie.
Don't watch this film, but do watch Enzo's video.
Yeah,
This screening cassette is being provided to you courtesy of Paramount Home Video for promotional use only. Northern, what you got coming up? You got a film on this Friday you're breaking down, I assume.
Yes, this is Spinal Tap. I don't know my guess yet. Don't know if
mate. Yeah, I've been waiting to do that for ages, and the sequel's coming out soon.
Oh yeah, come on, man, come on, lads. You're well invited. Enzo, you can come on.
I will. I think I'm going to. I will try and come on, but I think I've got a production meeting because it looks like the post office play might be coming back on stage again this year.
Yeah, do that, mate. Do that.
And you'll be able to come and see it, mate, because it's going to be on in Birmingham, which, as we know, is much closer to you than London. But if I can pop on, even if it's for a little bit, I will. And I am one of the people who's got the Holy Grail cut of Spinal Tap, there was a rough cut done. It's about 9 hours long, and it's pretty much all the footage that they shot for the movie, which was completely unscripted. Basically, the editor did a rough cut and just stuck it all together. And of course, different scenes are of varying quality because it hasn't been properly graded and put through all the final whatevers. And it was rumored that this longer cut of Spinal Tap existed. I read about it in a film magazine or something. And Pirate Bay had just become a thing, and I thought, I wonder if this is available to if I can find this thing. And after an exhaustive search, I found it, and I have that. I have it. I have what's considered to be the Holy Grail cut of This Is Spinal Tap. It's very, very poor quality in places, but it is quite interesting to watch all the stuff that didn't end up in the film. And I mean, it has to be said that they put the right stuff on screen, but there is some very funny stuff that didn't make it as well. I am curious to see the new one.
Yeah, because I've seen a few deleted scenes where they have this like singer replacing David, and I can see why they cut it out, because it's a very well paced movie. It's well structured, and it does feel like you're watching a real band. Just trying to sort of like gain some relevance again, because
it's the best documentary about the rock and roll band that you've never seen. It is fantastic. And of course, they did actually do some real gigs as well.
Yeah, because they are actually legit musicians. I've listened to
They
their
are,
songs.
yeah.
They actually do some good stuff as well, even if it is done in that sort of like.
Have you seen The Mighty Wind? Have you seen The Mighty Wind movie?
I've not seen that.
Yeah, I love that one.
I have seen
good
Best
one.
in Show as well. That's another good one about the
Mighty
Crufts.
Wind is Stupenzolicious saying he loves it.
I think that's my favorite. I like Best in Show a lot too, but
Best in Show is so good.
I think Mighty Wind.
I just showed Best in Show to a dog lover friend of mine who'd never seen it, and they were like, "Oh my god, how have I never seen this movie?"
If you talk to somebody, you meet somebody romantically or just meet somebody you want to hang out with, and they say that they're a movie buff, movie lover, and you can spout, well, this goes to 11, and they don't know what you're talking about, just get away from them because they're full of shit.
Yeah. That's a good. I mean, there's a well-known female comedian who used to basically say that when she started dating people, her kind of way of measuring whether they were right for her was, have they seen Spinal Tap? Question one. Nice. Question two, did they think it was funny? I thought it was it's a great film, but Mighty Wind, the humor in Mighty Wind is much more less in your face and kind of almost it's much more like watching an authentic film. It's really good. I want to show a quick clip. We're near the end now, so I guess I can edit it off real easy, and we'll end on this. Because of course we lost this actor not that long ago. I think he passed away about two years ago, and of course he was the dad's dad in Modern Family. But the first film, Fred Willard, he passed away, but the first movie I ever saw him in was Spinal Tap. And if you watch, he is the guy at the Air Force Base who's saying, hey, I need to watch my haircut and all this. And he's just improvising his dialogue, and they gave him bigger and bigger roles in their films as they went along, and he became a regular member of Christopher Guest's company. It was a very funny man. This is a clip of
in Best of Show as well as the commentators. Like, he keeps
brilliant.
He keeps going on with the shit show joke, doesn't he? And he just won't stop. And you kind of begging him to stop at the same time. You wanted him to keep going because it's so funny.
He's the best thing in Best in Show. Him and the actor that he's up at the British actor Jim. I forget his name, but I just wrote to that British actor and asked him to come on my channel. No joy as of yet. Anyway, I'm going to show this clip real quick, and we'll end on this. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to my panelists, of course. We will be back next Tuesday. I'm not sure if we're doing a Chew the Fat this Sunday. I haven't got anything scheduled at the minute, but I think I probably will do something. So keep an eye on the channel listings because it'll be up real soon. Let's have a quick look at Fred Willard in action.
Quick plug. I'm Mike LaFontaine, owner and founder of High Class Management. Whoops. Comics Constant Companion. Let's start right out. Hey, what happened? As you know, back in 1970, I started on a series called What Happened? And every time something would go wrong, I would look at the camera and say, hey, what happened? We had a lot of fun with that and a lot of other catchphrases. I got a real red wagon. And I can't do my work. And I believe I was the first one to use the phrase, I don't think so. But it only lasted a year. And that's good because that's how you establish a cult. I was on stage doing all my shtick, hey, what happened? And I can't do my work. And if someone would heckle me at that, they'd say, are you going to be on stage all night? I would say, that's right. But crack up the audience. But I know the guy sitting down front of the wall and say, nothing's got me. Join the crew. Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew.